Pete Carroll, at the time, was the head football coach at the University of Southern California, USC. And if you don't know anything about Pete Carroll, he is one of the most energetic, positive guys you will ever meet. And I got the opportunity to meet Coach Carroll when he came to the school I was working at. I was a teacher and a coach, and he was recruiting one of the athletes in our school. The thing that impressed me so much about Pete Carroll was when he walked onto campus, you felt it. I mean, he walked into the office, and the secretaries, they got up, and they smiled, and they took pictures with him. And then he walked through the quad, and he started giving high fives to kids. And the teachers came out of their classrooms, and they went to see Coach Carroll. They wanted to shake his hand. And I got to see Coach Carroll as well. And I got to talk to Coach Carroll just for like 2 minutes. And to be honest, I don't even remember what we talked about. But I do remember that it seemed like there was music going off, but wherever he needed his own theme song, you know? So if you haven't seen Coach Carroll, here's a quick clip of how he makes you feel. Happy Santa Claus, you know, you're just a guy you want to be around, and that's what Coach Carroll was. He's the guy that you wanted to be around. And so that day after our talk, I went back to my classroom, and I was teaching the French Revolution on that day. And the French Revolution was not something that never really interested me too much. It was something I had to teach, so I taught it. But on that day, we lived the French Revolution. We marched the Bastille, and I showed kids how King Louis was fat and out of shape, and I showed them how Marie Antoinette said, or maybe said, "Let them eat cake," and kids loved it. And I remember they were laughing and crying, and well, they weren't crying, but and they probably weren't laughing, but that's the way I remember it. And a week later, I gave the test. And the surprise was, the students killed it. It was the best test, the highest scoring test that I had had all year long. And I thought, wow, I didn't even like the French Revolution. And so I asked the students, hey, what was different? Okay, what was different? They said, Mr. Goins, your energy that day they said it was the bomb. It was 8 years ago, 10 years ago, so they used to say the bomb. I know they don't say that now. But they just told me the energy made it interesting for them. And so I've thought a lot about that since that day. And I thought a lot about energy and positivity and what it could bring to our lives. And then as an educator, and I have the privilege of being in a school with 4,000 bright minds, and I have 2 bright minds at home, of children of my own. And so the question that burns is, can positivity actually affect our intellect? Can it affect our lives? And I think the answer is yes. So let's talk a little bit about the science of positivity. All right, what do you see? Can you imagine that this is your SAT test or your AP test, and you walk into the gym and it's full of people ready to take the test, and you have studied for that test, you've had your prep classes, you're there, and you know what's writing on this test. Okay, there's a lot writing on this test. Your parents have told you there's a lot writing on this test. Your teachers have told you there's a lot writing on this test. You've studied, and you feel the pressure. You feel it. You walk in, you start breathing heavy. Your lungs can restrict a little bit. You might have sweaty palms, a little sweat. Well, all those things, there's some changes in our brain that make those things happen. Let's look at the brain. Okay? I'm not a brain surgeon, but very simply, the front of the brain, the frontal cortex, we have a thing that scientists call working memory. And that working memory is the things that are at your fingertips. Like when you would take a test and you need to answer a question right now, it's in your working memory. Okay, and then we have our procedural memory, and that's like deeper in our computer. And what affects the change from procedural memory to working memory, and that shift, is in that kind of C you see there, where's the hypothalamus and the amygdala. And essentially, those help control the emotions of the body. And so, when we go in to take that test, and we walk into that room, and we start to sweat, and we start to feel the pressure, okay, in our brains, we are releasing cortisol, stress hormones. We feel it. And it actually affects our ability to access that working memory. In fact, we can access less working memory when we have that cortisol is present. Now let's take the same test and look at it a different way. Let's say you walk into that same test and you say, I can't wait for this test today. It is an opportunity for me to show what I've got. I've been studying, I'm ready, and this test is a challenge. I'm going to nail it. A different thing happens in your body, and actually researchers have shown, Pauling, Fry, and Wessinger, researchers have shown that if you have an attitude where a test is an opportunity, you release adrenaline and you release testosterone in your brain. And what that does to your working memory is it actually opens it up. And studies like this have been repeated. There was one study, a Harvard study, Dr. Jameson did a study where they told students, hey, that stress feeling that you're feeling before a test, that's good for you. It's going to help you on the test. So students who were told that that stress was positive on a graduate test, the GRE, you may have heard of it, they scored 50 points higher than students that didn't have that belief. And then they gave the test a month later. The students that thought stress was positive, they scored 65 points higher. What's the point? The point is we can affect how we feel and actually increase or decrease our working memory. So, back to your test. How can we turn this into real life for us when we're sitting in the classroom? Well, if you take a test or you have a homework assignment or you answer a question right in class and you answer it right, that's a win. And anytime you get a win in your brain, you get a dopamine spike. What's dopamine? It's that chemical, that natural feel-good, that natural high chemical. So when we get something right, that's dopamine spike. When we get a grade back on a test or a project and we've done well, dopamine spike. Okay? Well, you can train your body to win. So when you get something right, you're doing math problems and you get one right, teacher says that's correct, give a fist pump. That'll spike dopamine in your brain. Okay, you get an answer right, give a high five, dopamine spike. Because what that does, not only do you get that natural high, but it increases the dopamine receptors in your brain. What does that mean? Well, that means that you are more able to get that same feeling easier. So winners, like Pete Carroll, become winners. It becomes easier for them to win. All right, I need everybody to do something for me right now. Stand up. Stand up. I need everyone, please. Okay, I want you to do your best Pete Carroll Rocky pose right there. Okay, hands up. You just won. Victory. Hands up. Look like you're winning. All right, yeah. Why? Dr. Amy Cuddy of Harvard and Princeton did studies. And Dr. Cuddy said that this is what you would be seen as a power pose. Okay? A power pose. What she found is if you do a power pose, you release testosterone by 20 to 25% higher than normal. Not only do you release extra testosterone, you reduce cortisol, stress hormone, by 20 to 25%. What does that do for you? Once again, it increases your capacity to learn and to reproduce learning. Even walking around. Studies show that walking around increases creativity by about 60%. So, like Pete Carroll, moods are contagious. Energy is contagious. And another study at Oxford showed that it's a thing called mood contagion. Okay, and mood contagion, essentially what it means is my energy is contagious to you and actually in your brain. So our energies can positively affect the neural circuitry of others. Okay? And so when you go into a group and you're doing a group project, a positive person can increase the chances of success for the whole group. In fact, this study showed that a positive person is a better predictor of success than the group's intellect or their skill. Think about that. What's more important than how smart the people in your group are how positive the people in your group are. So what does that mean? Be positive. Be that person. You be that person. You bring that energy. So, I want to talk quickly about, when we talk about positive expectations, there's also a thing about negative expectations. So I want to take a look at this softball. You ready? All right. Now, I didn't throw the ball, but a few of you right here had a very powerful flinch, right? Well, why? Does it make any logical sense that the principal is going to get on stage and throw a ball out into the crowd? I like my job. It doesn't make any sense. But your body had a physical reaction, though. It's the power of the brain. Okay? Our bodies have physical reactions. And when we have negative experiences and we have negative thoughts, then those physical reactions can be negative. Here's another study. Okay? This Oxford study, they took 13 individuals who were extremely allergic. And on their arm they said, listen, we are going to rub poison ivy on your arm to these extremely allergic people. Well, what do you think happened? All 13 contracted a rash. Here's the thing. They didn't rub poison ivy on their arm. It was a trick. They rubbed nothing on their arm. They rubbed poison ivy on the opposite arm. And on the opposite arm, 2 out of the 13 extremely allergic people actually got a rash. So think about that. The power of negativity is real strong as well. So I'll leave you with one final story. And again, it's about positive expectations. And up there is a book. It's called The Dissertation Journey, and it's by Dr. Carol Roberts. Dr. Carol Roberts is one of my teachers, or was at least last year. I'm in the second year of a program at the University of Laverne. I'm pursuing my educational doctorate at that university. And the first class I ever had was with Dr. Roberts. Okay? And Dr. Roberts is tough. You know when you step into class and the teacher wrote the textbook you're using, that it's going to be tough. Okay? And that's actually her on the mountain. So she's an author, she is an educator, she is a researcher, she is a mountain climber. And so we came in, we knew expectations would be high. We got into class, and that first assignment we were nervous about it. What was it going to be? We had heard rumors of a 20-page paper about ourselves, and we were a little nervous. And actually, our first assignment was a collage. It was a collage, like cut and paste collage, not new school cut and paste, like old school cut and glue, magazine pieces into a collage. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe that I had spent like $60,000 trying to get a doctorate, and I'm doing collages. My daughter was excited because she's a third grader and we had the same homework. But I didn't get it at the time. This collage was called a vision collage. And so what Dr. Roberts asked us to do is she asked us to write down what we want to have as we vision down the road, 5-10 years, what we want to be and what we want to do in 5-10 years. Just vision it. Put that positive energy, positive thoughts out into the universe. So I wrote, as I want to have, I took a picture of my family. I wanted to have a healthy family and a healthy me, and I wanted to be a leader, and I wanted to, when I go down to B, I want to be a good father, and I wanted to be, the best at what I did. And then when it came to what I wanted to do, I thought about it, and I thought, what I want to do? Here's a closer picture. I want to do a TED Talk. I really want to do a TED Talk someday in my life. And then about 8 months later, David and Noah came into my office and they said, you know, Mr. Goins, we want to really do a TEDx event here at Roosevelt. And so, my point is, Pete Carroll and the Harvard studies and brain research, that all taught me about the power of positivity. And it taught me that there's science behind it, and it taught me that we all should learn to be positive people because it can make us smarter and help us reproduce knowledge. But Dr. Roberts taught me that positivity, putting our hopes out there, that kind of positivity can help us fulfill our life goals and dreams. And I want that for you. Thank you.